to you about what things are you releasing. And I'm going to share a little bit of my stuff because that's my jam. So I want to share some things that I was thinking about and that I decided that it's time for me to release. So a lot of times when we talk about releasing things that no longer serve us, we don't be talking about, the people a lot of times. A lot of times we talk about, the things that we need to get rid of because, we want to clear clutter and all of this kind of stuff. But we don't often talk about the people that we need to release from our life. We don't often talk about the ideologies that we need to release, the things that we need to shift, the things that maybe we were taught as children and we no longer align with that. Maybe we found a better way to do something that is contrary to how we were raised and how we were conditioned to do it. And so all of these things are things that we can release. And as for me, these are actually things that I decided and I set my intention to release, you know? And also, I have to say, because I have been talking about people pleasing for probably the last 2 weeks, that's another thing that we can release. We can release people pleasing. And I'm telling you, it's a thing that, you don't even realize until you start diving into it how much is related to that. How many things you do because you're trying to keep the peace, and that is people pleasing. Okay, so how many things you do just because you want to keep the peace? My husband and I were having this discussion yesterday, and we talked about how this was something that we both had done in our previous relationships. We did things just to keep the peace because if we didn't do it, there would be no peace. You understand? And so that is a level of people pleasing. And for me, that's something that I'm releasing. I actually already released it. I did a nice little releasing ritual. I lit a candle. I sat down. I put on some beautiful, beautiful classical music. And I sat down with my journal and I tore a page out of one and I wrote down the things that I wanted to release. And then I burned them, sent them out, released them, set myself free. So if that's the journey that you're on, that's a way to do it. You can also write it down and bury it if you have a place that you can bury it. You can tear it up or cut it up and flush it down the toilet. You can put it down the disposal. There are so many different ways that you can release. Lauren, thank you for joining. So many different ways that you can release people, places, things, ideologies that no longer serve you. What I've been finding out over these last few days that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, so many things have been coming up for so many people. Social media has become flooded with a whole bunch of garbage. Um, and the thing is I'm not going to say anything against that. I'm not really even want to talk about that. I just want to say that that incident brought up so much for so many, and me included. Like I honestly did not even really know who this guy was. I mean, I saw like clips of him before, but it wasn't enough to be in my world. So I didn't really know, who he was, what he stood for, none of that other stuff. As a human, yeah, no, we don't want to see anybody get assassinated at all. But can I say that I'm sad or that I'm crying for it? No, none of that. Because two things can be true at the same time. Okay? Um But what I was saying about that was there's so many different things that started coming up for people. I've been seeing different posts and people are sharing and and not, you know, identifying with it or, sympathizing or even empathizing something that he himself didn't believe in. None of that has occurred for me. What has occurred for me is that we need to do better in humanity. We need to do better. We need to do better. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But thanks for joining. I gotta go because I have an interview in about 10 minutes. And if you can tell, I am on the beach in my happy place. So I got to get off this beach and go to my office. But thank you so much for hanging out, Lauren. Good to see you. We'll talk later. Bye.